Welcome everybody, welcome to our endless pool room at the Passion Fit Coaching Studio. Laura and I have been very fortunate to still be able to make use of the pool during our current lockdown. I say fortunate rather than lucky, because we made a lot of sacrifices in our life to be able to have this pool. Never thought it would come in quite as handy as it has, but it's been a real godsend for Laura and I whilst we haven't been able to access the swimming pool or the lake. I know so many of our community members have missed their swimming, and Laura and I have really welcomed the opportunity to be able to carry on working on our swimming. And that's really what today is about. Today's video is a little bit about a goal I've set myself through the lockdown crisis. One of the only goals I've really, or one of the only objective goals I've set myself during the crisis, and what it is that I've done to work towards that, and the fact that the reason I'm posting the video today is because today was the day that I actually achieved the goal that I set myself. So most of my goals through the lockdown process have been process-driven goals, so goals focused around my behaviours, the choices that I made, some of the things that I wanted to be doing week in and week out, rather than focused on the outcomes or performances or objective measures. And a lot of you will know that at Passion Fit we tend to focus on our behaviours and our mindset and our choices more than we do on performance outcomes anyway. But at the moment we've been focusing on that more than ever with ourselves as coaches, because obviously both Laura and I are self-coach, and also with our athletes that we work with. But I did set myself one specific objective, measurable goal through the lockdown process. And let's first of all start with what it was and then why I chose it. So what it was that I wanted to see if I could swim for an hour at a given speed. Actually, a certain distance for a given speed, but approximately an hour at a given speed in the endless pool. The reason that I chose that speed, chose that amount of time, is because I had worked through a process believing that I could do this. And it was it was actually quite an aspirational goal for me, so one I wasn't sure I could achieve, but I did believe I could. Today I've managed to succeed in swimming at that speed for the hour that I set myself, and from my perspective it's been really rewarding, because when I look at it relative to my own potential, my own progression rather than anybody else's, I could recognise that I can swim an hour. I've swum an hour today at a speed that perhaps 3 years ago when I first got the endless pool, or 4 years ago now actually, I could only hold for maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 minutes push. So it's been a really rewarding goal for me to work towards. The reason I chose a swim goal in that respect is because at the start of the crisis I really didn't want to put my body under too much physiological stress through the biking and the running. I didn't want to set myself a goal around things like FTP, run speed, etc., because I felt that the level of intensity I'd have to go to in my training to move towards those goals would put me at risk of overtraining and working too hard. And I knew that with the swimming, I could still have a really stretching and aspirational goal without having to work quite as hard physiologically, because so much of swimming and swim progression is defined by your ability to improve your technique. So I knew that I would be able to keep the intensity a little bit lower, but still have a really aspirational and stretching goal. I'm also a little bit older than perhaps most, so I'm 43, nearly 44, so again, putting my body under that amount of strain whilst we were uncertain about this COVID-19 situation wasn't something I wanted to do. I'm also asthmatic, so a number of reasons why I didn't want to put myself under too much stress, and I felt a goal that had a bit more balance towards the technical side was really of value to me. So that was the goal and why I chose it. What have I done towards achieving that? So what was the process that I went through? Well, I set myself a pretty specific process that I would stick to, that I thought would work. So normally we swim a lot, I swim a lot, so I swim 5 to 7 times a week. Most of our athletes swim 5 to 7 times a week once we've progressed them to that point, to the ability to do that technically and physically, because I'm a great believer that swimming is very skill-based. With anything skill-based, the frequency of your practice, not your training necessarily, but the frequency of your practice is critical for progression. And swimming is one of the most complicated things you can learn to do technically. And I would liken it more to a martial art than perhaps I would say cycling or running. So we do swim a lot, but I realised that swimming in the endless pool, as often as I swim normally, probably wouldn't be as beneficial. Now, it's not because the pool isn't a great place to swim, but it's because I realised there was only so many things I could do in the endless pool, and also the quality of the individual sessions themselves was very high. So there was going to be a point at which extra sessions would not necessarily be diminishing returns, but wouldn't necessarily provide any additional return for the time investment. And we had a lot of other things to be doing around the rest of our lives, around the business, the community, making sure that we work with everybody to move through this crisis efficiently and effectively. So I set myself a goal of 3 swims a week in the endless pool. Between those swims were between an hour and a half each, varying in distance depending on the intensity and speed of the swim. And I also realised that in the endless pool it's easy to do conditioning and technique at the same time, because the conditions are very consistent. It's very easy to recognise what we're doing technically if you know what you're looking for. And we have mirrors in the endless pool, which also helps to, I don't know if Lauren can actually show you. Yeah. So we have mirrors in the bottom of the endless pool, which helps hugely with your ability to be able to recognise what you're doing. Because of course one of the things we don't get in swimming is visual feedback. In the endless pool we have a large amount of that. So I realised that those 3 swims would probably suffice. I won't bore you with the specific details. If you want to know more, then obviously let me know and I can go through that with you. But predominantly it was about 1 threshold type set, 1 tempo type set and 1 long set. That's a very simplistic way of explaining it, but that was kind of it. And I basically did the same 3 sets effectively every week for about 8 or 9 weeks. I haven't really wavered from that. I haven't missed a session. That's been really key as well. I have adjusted them slightly sometimes depending on how I felt. Some have gone better than others, but fundamentally they've gradually progressed. So the top end of that spectrum has progressed over that period of time. So I've certainly got better at swimming in the endless pool, and that's ended with me hitting the goal I set myself. Whether or not that translates directly to the pool or open water racing, I don't know, because I've never done an exclusively endless pool based program and then tried to transfer that across. I do use the endless pool a lot, but obviously I'm also swimming in the pool and sometimes in open water too. So we'll find out when I return to the pool and or open water racing in the near future. So it's been brilliant. I don't want to really share with you the specifics around how fast or how far I swam, because that really wasn't relevant to the goal. Because the goal was about my progression. It wasn't about how fast or how far I swam, it was about how I progressed from where I was to where I got to. And for me, talking about how fast or how far you go there isn't really a place for that for me in training. I'm not even sure ideally there's a place for that in racing for me and for the values that I have and our community have. The whole dick measuring, dick swinging con thing isn't really what I'm all about. It certainly isn't what our community guys are all about. So, like I said, the goal for me was all about that progression, and where I started at the beginning of this period and 3 years ago, and setting that aspiration on where I could get to and trying to work through the problem solving. That was the challenge. Could I solve the problem, and could I find a way to get myself there and then measure that progression in an objective way? And it's gone really well, so I'm feeling really pleased about it. I wanted to just share some of the things that I learned from that. So hopefully that's not too vague, and if you do want to know a bit more detail, I'm happy to share it privately, so let me know, and I can do. But yes, that's what I've been doing the last few weeks, and like I said, I'll probably report back and let you know how that transfers to normal swimming, and whether or not the endless pool does make that transfer possible. And for those of you that have looked at the fact that we have an endless pool, it's certainly not something that's out of reach, guys. So if the actual pool itself interests you, get in touch with us. We can put you in contact with the right people. A great company, offers some great customer services, especially if you're a coach. They're really supportive. And Lauren and I, as I said, we have made some big sacrifices to have our pool. Some of you may be in a position where you don't have to do that, where you can afford to buy one anyway. But I have to say, it's one of the decisions we made, the sacrifices that we have made to be able to have our studio and have our pool has certainly, in my eyes, been worth it, because it's brought us a lot of rewards that perhaps other things, like a bigger house or nicer cars, probably wouldn't have brought us. So yeah, there we go. There's a little bit about our journey, or my journey so far, and hopefully that helps some of the Passion Fit followers too. Take care, guys.